In June 2021, Australia uncovered a criminal empire hiding in plain sight. Behind the wheel of luxury cars and inside a $4 million Bayview mansion, 33-year-old restaurateur Mostafa Baluch was secretly linked to one of the biggest cocaine plots in the nation's history, an alleged 900-kilogram shipment worth $270 million. What looked like a clean, successful life shattered the moment police stormed his waterfront home, seizing cash, phones, steroids, and a small dose of cocaine that pointed to something far larger. Operation Ironside soon revealed the truth. Baluch had been communicating through AN0M, the FBI and AFP's covert app that trapped hundreds of criminals worldwide, and when he finally cut off his ankle monitor, Australia launched a 16-day manhunt unlike anything before. The phantom drug kingpin nobody knew about. Let's jump back to June 2021. For years, Mostafa Baluch had been living what looked like the perfect life, the kind of life young, hungry entrepreneurs dream about. He was the son of Afghan immigrants who built a thriving restaurant business on Sydney's northern beaches, and he definitely inherited their drive. But he took it in a direction nobody saw coming. From the outside, everything about him looked clean. He owned the Servo restaurant in Northbridge, cruised around in luxury cars, and lived in a $4 million Bayview waterfront mansion. The type of place with massive glass walls facing the ocean, where you could drink your morning coffee while watching yachts glide past. To the people around him, he was just another rising star in Sydney's business scene. But that picture-perfect life was hiding something far darker. When Outsmarted police stormed his Bayview mansion on June 3, 2021, they stumbled upon a collection that instantly made senior detectives pay attention. $62,700 in cash, 4 mobile phones, $12,000, some steroids, and a small amount of cocaine. But the cocaine wasn't the real shark. The real shock came when they began tracking where that cocaine had actually come from. What they uncovered was massive. Baluch wasn't some small-time hustler looking for quick money. He was allegedly the brains behind one of the biggest cocaine importation plans Australia had ever seen. A shipment of 900 kilograms of pure cocaine coming in from Ecuador. Street value? Around $270 million. To put that into perspective, that's enough cocaine to feed an entire country's drug market for months. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a bad financial decision. This was organized crime on a full industrial scale. The sting that changed everything. So how did Baluch even get tied into something that big? The answer leads into one of the boldest undercover operations in modern policing, Operation Ironside. Between 2018 and 2021, the FBI and the Australian Federal Police pulled off an operation straight out of a thriller. They built a fake encrypted messaging app called AN0M and sold it to criminal networks, advertising it as a safe, untraceable platform to communicate. But the twist was legendary. Every message sent through AN0M was being watched by law enforcement. Over 3 years, around 1,700 AN0M devices were quietly handed out to criminals across the world, and every chat, every deal, every plan, every argument was visible to police. It was like having a window straight into the underworld's private group chats. Baluch was one of the many who trusted that fake security. Through AN0M, investigators slowly pieced together his role in the cocaine importation scheme, but everything came into focus because of an unlikely man, Mende Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky's name exploded into headlines when he burned through about $77 million in a single week at Sydney's Star Casino. Yes, $77 million in just 7 days, and he wasn't even employed. When detectives dug into where that unbelievable amount of money came from, they found the trail led straight into a global drug network, with Mostafa Baluch operating as one of the major players. So, on June 3rd, police arrested Baluch. But here's where things really start to twist. The magistrate refused to give him bail. The decision that changed everything. Jump ahead to October 22nd, 2021. By now, Mostafa Baluch had been sitting in custody for 4 long months. His legal team pushed hard, arguing that despite the enormous charges stacked against him, he deserved to be released on bail. And they didn't just talk. They put up his entire $4 million Bayview mansion as surety. That kind of collateral isn't small. It was designed to say he's not going anywhere. But Outsmarted police didn't buy a word of it. They openly fought the bail request and warned the court again and again that Baluch was too dangerous and too connected to simply let walk out. The police commissioner even laid it out bluntly. This man had ties to heavy organized crime, access to money, and every possible reason to flee. Their message was clear: don't let him out. But the court saw it differently. A magistrate approved the bail. Now think about the timing. It was late October 2021. Baluch had spent 4 months watching his world collapse, piece by piece. He knew how strong the evidence looked. He knew what decades in a cell felt like. And suddenly, he was being told he could step outside again, just with an ankle monitor to keep him in check. 3 days later, on October 25th, everything blew apart. the Great Escape. A simple decision that sparks chaos at around 10:30 p.m. that night. Mostafa Baluch made the move that would send shockwaves across the country. He didn't sprint into the darkness or pull off some action movie stunt. Instead, he quietly removed his ankle monitor and cut it off. That one simple action set off one of the biggest manhunts Australia had ever seen. In seconds, the system kicked into overdrive. NSW Police, Queensland Police, the AFP, the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, Border Force, and the Nest-Dweller Crime Commission, multiple states, federal agencies, even international intelligence channels, all activated because one man cut off one device. Detective Superintendent Rob Critchlow, the head of the organized crime squad, was immediately called in. Later, he summed up their fear in a single line. He's currently on bail for extremely serious offenses. We are worried about public safety with this individual still at large. But what made the situation even more intense was one detail. Baluch hadn't run blindly. He had a plan, the master plan. A road to freedom. Within hours of removing the ankle monitor, Baluch was nowhere near his luxury mansion. Police later said he was likely collected by associates in a black Range Rover, which CCTV picked up heading through the M4 tunnel near Croydon, not long after he fled the northern beaches. But he wasn't aiming to hide out in Sydney. His escape plan was far more ambitious. Detectives later pieced together that Baluch had allegedly arranged a route that would take him all the way to far north Queensland. From there, he planned to be taken by boat to Indonesia, then Thailand, and finally to Eastern Europe, specifically the Balkans. And the reason? According to investigators, Baluch had powerful underworld contacts in that region. The kind of people who could offer protection, shelter, and, most importantly, distance from Australia's reach. The Balkans have a long history as safe havens for international fugitives. It was a calculated escape, not a desperate one. Police raided 2 properties in Sydney's southwest, one in Yagoona and another in Potts Hill. What they found painted a very clear picture. More than $250,000 in cash, around 200 grams of cocaine, even 85 grams of unidentified substances, several mobile phones, and an electronic money counter. That machine alone said everything. Baluch wasn't planning a quick run. He was counting large stacks of cash, gearing up for an international escape that would require serious resources. He wasn't just running, he was running prepared. The pressure mounts, a nationwide dragnet as the days rolled by. October 26th, October 27th, October 28th, the manhunt only grew more intense. Detective Superintendent Rob Critchlow fronted the cameras again and again, warning the public with the same grim confidence. "We are pretty sure we're not far away." He said Baluch was very focused on leaving the jurisdiction, and that investigators believed he was trying to get help from people who could fly him out of NS-Dolo, and eventually out of Australia entirely. And with every extra day, Baluch managed to stay free. The stakes skyrocketed. Senior police admitted that if he slipped overseas, it could take years to bring him back. Years and millions of dollars. Extradition laws, the Balkan networks he allegedly had ties to, and the resources he could tap into, all of it pointed toward an international nightmare for Australian authorities. The pressure was massive. The media loved it. Front pages were calling Baluch Australia's Pablo Escobar. Nist-Dodler's police minister David Elliott didn't hold back either. He actually admitted he felt embarrassed. "I was embarrassed for the Australian Federal Police because they had to go and tell our international partners that we had lost one of the big ones. Meanwhile, police were chasing leads across the map. They believed Baluch moved from the northern beaches to southwestern Sydney safe houses, and then toward Queensland. Officers were searching trucks, checking cars, setting up roadblocks, scanning highways. It was a giant operation, draining time and money by the hour. And then, on November 9th, everything suddenly shifted. The knock that changed everything. Just after midnight, on November 10th, 2021, around 1 a.m., a truck rolled across the Nest-Dweller-Queensland border. Nothing special on the surface, except officers noticed the container on the back wasn't secured properly. That tiny detail was enough to get their attention. A Queensland police constable walked up to the container and did something that would later become part of Australian policing folklore. He knocked. Inside that container was Mostafa Baluch. He was sitting in a grey Mercedes-Benz that had been loaded into the container. The truck driver, later identified as John Kitanovsky, had hidden Baluch and the car inside and was driving north toward the coast. The plan was simple. Get Baluch to a port, get him overseas, and disappear. But here's the irony. Baluch mistook the constable's knock for a signal from his own people. He thought it meant, "We're here, it's safe," so he knocked back. That single knock, one nervous tap in the dark, gave everything away. The constable stood there stunned. Someone had knocked from inside the container. Police swarmed in, opened it up, and there was Baluch, crouched inside the Mercedes, shackled and restrained. His escape plan ended right there on the back of a truck. Detective Superintendent Rob Critchlow later broke down what happened. We suspect that the person thought it was a drop-off point, that he was being signaled that it is safe. Of course, he didn't realize it was a constable. He was a bit shocked when we found him. Baluch was arrested on the spot and taken straight to the Southport Watch House on the Gold Coast. Just like that, the 16-day manhunt was over. The aftermath. When a master plan crumbles, once officers brought Baluch back to Nestadolis, the story shifted into its next chapter. He faced court in Sydney and was taken to the Metropolitan Remand and Reception Centre. No luxury cars, no waterfront views, no designer clothes. Just prison greens. The man who spent months building an international escape plan was now right back where he began, behind bars. But his arrest wasn't the end of the investigation. Far from it. Police quickly moved in on the truck driver, 46-year-old John Kitanovsky from Yowie Bay. He was charged with an act intending to pervert the course of justice. Detectives discovered he was running Kitbros Transport, and the truck he used to help hide Baluch was seized for forensic examination. And the more investigators dug into the transport company, the more they uncovered. According to reports, officers found so much evidence linked to other criminal activity that one detective commented that there would be very few trucks left on the road tomorrow by the time they finished going through everything. The bigger picture, what this tells us about crime and justice, what makes this case so absorbing, beyond the drama, beyond the chase, is what it reveals about how modern organized crime works and how law enforcement tries to keep up. First, the bail decision. Despite loud warnings, despite the seriousness of the charges, despite the massive investigation already unfolding, a court still granted bail to a man accused of orchestrating a $270 million cocaine operation. The belief was that a $4 million property bond was enough to keep him from running. It wasn't. His case sparked debates across Nest about how bail is handled for high-level drug offenders. Supreme Court Justice Robert Beach Jones later pointed out that ankle bracelets aren't foolproof, in that the delay between a breach alert and police responding is long enough for someone determined, someone like Baluch, to leave the country entirely. Second, the role of international intelligence operations like Operation Ironside. This wasn't just a matter of Baluch slipping up. He got caught because police had essentially been sitting inside encrypted criminal communication channels for years. And 0M showed just how far undercover digital operations can reach, even into networks that believe they're untouchable. Third, the escape itself. Baluch had money, overseas contacts, a detailed route, and a clear plan stretching from Queensland to Indonesia to Thailand, and finally the Balkans. Yet the entire operation collapsed because of a simple detail involving a container, a truck, and one knock. Even the best-laid plans can fall apart in the smallest moments. The legacy of the Baluch manhunt today, the Mostafa Baluch manhunt, stands as one of the most memorable chapters in Australian policing. NSW Police Minister David Elliott even said he wanted to track down the constable who delivered that now famous knock on the container so he could buy him a beer and a hug when the borders open. That constable became an unlikely hero, not through a dramatic chase or a shootout, but by noticing something off about a loosely secured container and following his instincts. A knock on metal, a knock back from inside. And just like that, the chase ended. The case forced serious conversations about bail laws, ankle monitoring, and just how much effort it takes to catch a suspect once they decide to run. It proved that even in a world filled with encrypted apps, global networks, and international escape routes, sometimes old-school police instincts and a little bit of luck still win. As for Baluch, none of his plans ever materialized. No boat to Indonesia, no flight through Thailand, no reunion with his Balkan underworld contacts. Instead, he's now facing the justice system he tried so hard to escape. Awaiting trial for one of the largest cocaine importation schemes Australia has ever seen. In the end, you can run from the law, getting away. That's the real challenge. And sometimes, all it takes is a single knock to bring the whole escape crashing down.